All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everyone. I'm Heidi Lovett. I'm the Senior Mentor for Washington State. And I wanted to welcome you to our webinar. You should be seeing on your screen a picture of our handsome Kevin Ross, who is the Judge Advisor for FTC at World. He is also the father of First in Washington. So we love him here in the West Coast.
Oh, gee.
So, Kevin, you're welcome to say hello if you'd like.
Hello there.
Kevin's going to be he's our expert, and we'll be talking today about judging and how to improve your judging experience for both you and the judges. I'd also like to introduce Mary Lee, who's listening in and helping us with this process. She's the new Partner Services Manager for the East Coast and the West Coast, so she stretches. I am the Senior Mentor for, like I said, Senior Mentor for Washington State, and what that means is that I'm here to support teams and volunteers and coaches and mentors. So if you have any questions, feel free to raise your hands. Everybody is currently on mute so that we can get through the material and there's not a lot of feedback. So if you have a question, you can raise your hand, and at the appropriate time we will unmute you so you can ask your question, or you can also send in questions through the questions box, and we will answer them then. So that being said, Kevin, you want to go ahead and start?
Well, I'd love to. So first of all, thank you all for showing up to watch this. I have a little agenda here for you. I'm going to give you a quick overview because I know some of the teams are new. Just a quick overview of what the judging is and how it works. Talk a little bit about the awards. And then we'll get into some tips for how to do better at judging and maybe win yourself an award, which is always a great goal. And then I'm going to spend a little bit of time on each one of the awards just to tell you what I think about them and then answer any questions that you might have about them. And then we'll leave some time at the end for questions and answers of just anything that you want to know about. I am more than happy to be interrupted at any time, so if you do end up with a question or if you didn't understand something, by all means raise your hand. Your GoToWebinar little control panel there should have a little thing that you can raise and lower your hand on your own. So there you go. And if we do go to talk to you, we may turn on your microphone, and we'll see what happens. Otherwise, you can type your questions into the questions box. Let's talk about judging. So you've worked hard on your robot. You've done a lot of cool things. We really want to give you an award. And in order to do that, we have this thing called the judging process, and it has 4 parts to it. There's the informal judge interview, or I'm sorry, the formal judge interview, which you're going to get hauled off to a room somewhere and talk to a panel of 2 or 3 or maybe 4 judges, and they're just going to have a chat with you and ask you about your what you've done and how you went about doing it. Then there's also something called the informal pit interview, and that's the judges kind of wandering around the pits and just kind of chatting and watching and seeing what's going on and coming and gathering extra information. We also usually have the judges watching the matches to see how things are going. And the reality is that the judges are always kind of watching in the background, seeing what's going on, how your team interacts with other teams. So we kind of call it the spy game. We'll talk about that a little bit more in depth. So let's talk first about this formal judge thing. There's usually an interview room. This is from Atlanta a couple years ago. Most of us are doing this in classrooms. But there'll be a couple of judges, 2, 3 judges, and you're going to bring your robot and all your stuff, all your team members, and you're going to head off into a room, and they're going to ask you some questions. That's kind of all there is to it. Sorry about that. Got distracted. The formal interview is about 10 minutes long, and we've told the judges that it's an informal chat with the team, and for you guys on your end, listen to what the judges are asking and try your best to answer. There are no exact right answers. There are no exact wrong answers. And they just want to get a feel for how you did. Now, remember that the judges basically will only find out what you tell them. And so if you have done something cool or you're particularly proud of something, be sure that you are able to work that in. You can also, if you want to have something prepared to, a little bit of prepared presentation or things that you definitely want to get said, coming prepared is a great idea. And that way you can, that way the judges see you guys telling your story, and it makes it easier on them. So best that you can do to, whatever you can do to tell your story to the judges in that interview is a great idea. Don't plan on walking in and bombarding them with a 10-minute PowerPoint presentation, though. If you do want to prepare something, kind of think like a minute or two, maybe 3 minutes at the most, because they're going to have questions that they want to ask, and be ready because they're going to the questions are going to kind of wander all over the map. Just so you know, we don't give the judges a fixed list of questions to ask. They kind of wing it a little bit, because all of this judging is subjective, and it just sort of depends on the information that you're providing and whatever pops into their mind to be curious about. Okay, everybody on the team should be able to participate. Obviously, you've got some people who are probably experts at software and some people who did a really good job at hardware, so they don't expect everybody to know everything, but they do expect everybody on the team that's there to be involved. This is a really important one that for all of the judging operations, the judges really want to talk to the students. So mentors are welcome to come to the judge interview, but stay out of it. So make sure that your mentors are not involved with trying to answer questions or directing the team. If your mentors are like me, they would have a difficult time keeping their yakkers shut, so I would recommend that they not go to the judging sessions. And in general, whenever the judges have come to interview your team, they really, we love the mentors. The mentors are awesome. We appreciate the mentors, but we really want to talk to the students. Okay? How are we doing so far? Anybody got any questions? Okay. So another part of the day is after the informal interviews happen, the judges are likely to stop by your pits to say hello. And again, they're gathering information about your team. And so the key question that you as a team should be asking is, what are we doing to provide them information? Are the people that are in the pits knowledgeable? And also, are we actually in the pits? One of the hard parts about doing these pit interviews is that it's sometimes very difficult to find somebody actually in the pit, and especially at the smaller regionals, because everybody's run out to watch the robot play and you're on the field a lot. It might be a good idea to have somebody hang back that can speak for your team, and let them hang back in the pits so that the judges have somebody to talk to. Don't hide from the judges, because it isn't that we'll count it against you, but if we don't have additional information to gather about you, you may not judge quite as well. Okay, it's perfectly great to hand them things if you have written brochures, or if you have buttons are great. Whatever you want to give the judges to help you stand out. Because remember, these the judges have just seen like 6, 8 teams in a row, and most of our events have 16 to 24 teams at them. And reality is that the teams who get awards are usually the teams that have done something to really set themselves apart from other teams. So that when the judges go back to the judging room, they go, oh yeah, that team 1039, they were pretty awesome. I really liked them because they were organized. They had a nice pit area. They were talkative. They were able to tell me things about their robot. And it's obvious that the students knew what was going on, and the students did all the work. Those are the sorts of things that you hear in the judging room as the judges are coming back from these pit interviews. Okay, make sense? Organization and style matter. You know, when you go visit a team in their pits, if there are coats and book bags thrown everywhere and people are constantly trying to find that hex key wrench or the place is a complete zoo or a mess, you know, it isn't that we have a checklist that says, oh, their pit was neat and organized, but the reality is that when they get back to the judging room, yeah, a little organization effort would have been good, I think, because they'll get back and they'll kind of go, yeah, you know, they were kind of messy, and they had no style. So it's just sort of an impression thing. It isn't like we have something on the checklist that says, you know, that the pit was awesome, but it's just one of those little things that really kind of sets your team apart. We always remember the ones that have a little pit display that's showing what they've done during the year, maybe a few things out of their engineering notebook that look good, pictures of outreach, or, you know, anything else that you can put up. Now, remember that you're going to be, most of us are going to be doing this at regional qualifying events. So you may not have a whole lot of room in your pit area, so you'll probably want to check with your event organizer for the event that you're going to see how much space you have. So, you know, don't bring a whole lot of stuff, but a little bit of something is usually a pretty good idea. And then the last one's really important, and this is actually a great opportunity for you guys to solidify in your mind what it is that you're accomplishing. Is what's your 30-second elevator pitch? So an elevator pitch. Pretend you got into an elevator one day and, you know, in walks Bill Gates. So you're riding up the elevator with Bill Gates and he's going to the 17th floor. What is it that you can say to Bill in 30 seconds to make him be able to walk out of that elevator with an interesting story in the back of his head about what your team did and why your team was kind of unique? So that means being concise, being descriptive, and being able to kind of summarize what it is that makes your team unique in a short amount of time. Okay, you don't want to fire hose a judge with 10 minutes of why your team is unique. You can, and and that's fine. But if you did it in 30 seconds, they're far likely to remember the details than if you gave them a 10-minute diatribe about it. Does that make sense? Any questions about that?
We're good on questions.
Yay.
Kevin, we have a question. We have a question whether the slides will be available after the call.
Yes, they will.
I just sent it. Yeah.
Yep. Oh, yeah, see. Do we have any others? Slides? Oh, actually, there's several versions of that. Cool. Yeah. Yes. They will be available.
And I answered the where to look for it.
Thank you. Okay. So that's sort of the informal pit interview ideas that, you know, the judges have already seen and talked to your team. And honestly, when they're coming back out into the pits to talk to you again, they may be thinking that your team is eligible for an award, and they're out gathering more information. So this informal pit interview is actually a very important thing because, you know, judges who haven't seen your team yet may be the ones going out and asking you questions. So be prepared for that. Now, the other thing you want to be prepared for is who are you leaving behind in your pits, right? If you're leaving somebody's 8-year-old sister to sit there and watch the book bags, right, and the judges come by, is it the case that you want your potentially grumpy 8-year-old sister who's sitting there feeling like she really would go do something else? That's probably not the person you want representing your team. So you do need to give that some thought. And this is part, this is part of the FTC game, is being able to tell the judges about stuff. If you want to win one of the awards, this is as important as going out to play with the robot and watch. So that was just a little extra emphasis on how important this part is. Moving on. Usually we have a couple of judges who act as match observers, and they're watching to see how your robot does and making notes, and we try and collect information about each robot at least once or twice. Sometimes we have match observers there for the whole day, and I'm telling you this because if you tell the judges that our autonomous program works perfectly and we can do a perfect score every time, and they go out and ask the match observers who say, oh, well, they never moved in autonomous and the wheels kept falling off. The judges are going to get two stories, and they're going to start to wonder, and that will cast self-doubt. Now, remember, they are not going to go, oh, score, I just caught 1039, I just caught them in a lie, right? That isn't what they're doing. But what they will end up with is some questions in the back of their brain about what they heard you guys talk about, and what your description of yourselves does not match what the match observers saw in reality. So my key point about this match observation thing is, be honest. We know that not everything goes right. This is a complex problem built by high school students. We're happy to hear what failed and what you would like to do better. In fact, actually, the judges love to hear that. If you come up and tell us that everything is perfect and as a team we all work together like brothers and sisters and are perfect, and we did all this community outreach and all the rest of the stuff, if everything is spot on perfect, the judges kind of go, oh, well, yeah, maybe we better dig deeper, right? So, and if they do start digging deeper and find discrepancies, that doesn't always bode well for your team. So, best thing to do is to be honest. And the other thing you need to realize is that, we're going to talk to one or two of your teammates likely in the pits. We may come back later and talk to somebody else. So, if you're getting a little too creative about how well your robot is doing, and we come back and get a different story from someone else, again, we're not trying to catch you in a lie, but that always introduces this element of doubt in the judge's mind. So, being honest and telling us what actually is going on always works better. Having a full team keep a consistent, flaky story going, it doesn't work. So there you go. There's my spiel on that. Questions? Okay. Let me tell you what I call it, the spy game. We're not really spying on you. We're not trying to be Big Brother or anything. We do look for a few things, though. And gracious and professional is by far the most important thing that you can be. It's very sad to see a team that had a lot of merit sort of lose all of their brownie points by being ungracious and unprofessional. And it does happen, and it's something that you guys need to take to heart, is that we don't want to catch you doing anything funky or berating another team or playing unfairly or not being gracious and professional. But if you do get labeled with that, it makes it really difficult to win an award. And this is actually true, not just in FTC. It's true across the entire FIRST program. I've been a judge for all 4 programs, and being ungracious and professional is pretty much a killer. So take that for what it's worth. We hear lots of things. We hear a lot about when gracious professionalism fails. We also hear when gracious professionalism works. So it's sort of a two-way street there. We've had one team help another team completely rebuild their robot and make it better by the end of the day, and judges love to hear that sort of stuff. Being nice to everybody in the room always pays dividends. Okay, so there you go. So we're not trying to spy on you, but the reality is that we do hear a lot of ancillary information, and usually if you're out of the norm, as in did something really awesome, we'll hear about it, or if you did something really bad, we'll hear about it. Okay. So good. So far, so good.
Looks like it.
Question?
No, it looks like we don't have any questions that I see.
So let's talk about the awards real quick. There are 6 awards. The Motivate, Connect, PTC Design, Rockwell Collins Innovate, Think, and Inspire awards. These are all documented in your game manual. We're going to discuss them all here in a little bit. There are some optional awards as well, and you should check with your affiliate partner on whether your events are going to have these or not. There's the Promote Award, which is for public service announcements. It's new this year, and we're kind of piloting it across the country. And there's also the Compass Award, which is intended for the students to nominate a mentor or their mentors for the Compass Award. And again, check with your affiliate partner to find out if those awards are available at your event. Last one is most of the regionals also give out 1 or 2 judges awards, and those are awards that are for teams who didn't really fit one of the other categories, or for somebody who's really strong but just missed several times. It's completely up to the judges whether they hand those out. So we have a question here. Can you give some real examples, good and bad, on GF? Do you mean gracious professionalism, Gary? So Gary, we're going to find out if you have a microphone. Here we go. I'm going to unmute you. Do you have a microphone?
Yes, this is Gary. Yes, yeah, I mean gracious professionalism.
You meant gracious professionalism. Okay, good question. So, good gracious professionalism is outstanding sportsmanship. I mean, if another team is having problems getting their software to work, or getting some part of their robot to work, and you help them out, or you loan them parts, or you do whatever you can to get them ready to go. I mean, a really good example is from Olympia, Washington last weekend. There were the opposing alliance that was in the queue. So there were 4 teams in the queue: the Red Alliance, the Blue Alliance. The Red Alliance, both teams on the Red Alliance were helping the Blue Alliance get their robot prepared for the next match because there was some issue with it. That's an example of gracious professionalism, where we want everybody to do well. Examples of bad gracious professionalism: some of them, berating another team is a really good example of bad behavior. Yelling at somebody and causing them grief because of something that either they did or some sort of slight usually doesn't actually work out to your benefit. Calling somebody stupid at a first event is really a bad idea, and that's the kind of stuff that will end up back to the judges almost immediately. Doing things to impede the progress of others is generally kind of bad gracious professionalism. Does that make sense, Gary?
Yes.
Okay.
Maybe one more follow-up question. In general, does the defensive game strategy can be interpreted as bad gracious professionalism?
That is an excellent question. In general, as long as you're playing within the rules, it's all fair game. If, however, you've got something that you figured out that if you flip your arm just right, you can flip somebody over, it's sort of not only against the rules, right, but it's also kind of considered not very gracious and professional to intentionally break the rules, or to really kind of run that ragged edge of, well, it was intentional. If it was an intentional flip, that's kind of the official rule, but the judges can't really prove intentional, but it's kind of obvious that you've done it multiple times. That's sort of ungracious and professional. For the most part, though, if we have rules for the game, and you're free to explore the boundaries of those rules, and you'll need to decide whether it's gracious and professional or not. Make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions about that sort of thing? I'm going to mute you again, Gary. Yep.
Can I add to that?
Yeah.
One thing you need to keep in mind is that it is a very delicate balance, and some refs will say it's not that a very aggressive approach is not a problem, and others will say that, you know, that's really not okay. And you won't know from ref to ref. So when in doubt, play it nicer, I would say.
Yeah, and you know, it's going to be up to you to do a gut check. If you know that you're kind, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
You know whether you're kind of feeling a little weird about what you're about to do, right? And you got to do a gut check. If you feel it's well within the rules, and you could without having to look away or turn red, defend yourself verbally with the referees to say, you know, no, I think I was allowed to do that. That would be fine. If you were going to go do that and kind of feel sheepish and feel like kicking your shoe as you talk to him, yeah, you probably went over the line, you know. So I guess trust your gut. It's usually right. Okay, off we go. Award motivations. So each one of our awards is intentional. There's a program goal behind each one of these awards. And I think it's really important to, if you understand that the sort of underlying idea why we're giving out that award, it might help you to succeed in FTC. I want to put a big caveat on the section I'm about to give you. There's no checklist. I'm giving you my opinions. I train most of the judges, so most of them have heard my opinions, but it's going to be up to them. There is no checklist or anything. I think that the one thing I want you to leave this entire section that I'm about to tell you is that we love to see teams do well at the program goals of first, and that's why we give out awards. So you need to keep that in mind, that, you know, if you go explicitly gunning for an award just to win the award and forget to do well at the program goal as a team, you may not be as successful as you would think. So somebody is actually asking a relatively good question, so I'm going to answer that before I go on to my next slide. It's where's my attendee list? There we go. Warren is asking, is there a ratio of number of judges per teams competing in an event, and are the judges easily identified? Usually the judges have a badge on it that says judge. At Worlds, we actually give them gold-colored T-shirts. At most of the events, they'll probably wearing whatever the volunteer shirt of the day is, and they'll usually identify themselves as judges. If they're walking up and talking to you intently about your team and they've got a volunteer shirt on, you're pretty much guaranteed that they're probably a judge. I would make that's a very safe assumption. Usually there are, for every 6 to 8 teams, there will be 2 judges. So an 18-team event, for example, probably has 3 judging panels of 2 judges each. There'll be 6 judges for the 18 teams. Does that kind of answer your question, Warren? I'm going to assume it did. Okay. All right. So, tips for doing better at awards. Really, doing a first-class job being an FTC team is really the best way to win an award. It's obvious. It's obvious which teams put in a lot of effort, and it's obvious which ones don't. And remember, the judges. None of these are experts. They're all volunteers. This is all subjective judging. There are no explicit score sheets or rankings or grades that we're giving you. It's how the judges felt about your team at the end of the day that really matters. Okay, and if as a judge, it's sometimes difficult, but usually it's pretty easy to tell which teams have done a really good job at being an FTC team, and which teams are going to do better next year. Okay. Big tip: read sections 5 and 6 of the rules. It's amazing how many teams every year they read the robot rules, which I think is section 4. They never got to 5 and 6. Section 5 is all about the notebook. That's a very critical part to winning awards. and Section 6 has all of the guidelines for these awards. Okay? And like we discussed before, be sure you're able to articulate the successes that you've had. You know, you need to tell the judges why you're a good team. They're going to ask lots of questions, but you have to be able to reply to those questions. So, and honestly, you know, being prepared for that, that shows effort. That shows that you guys were trying to do a good job to be an FTC team. Okay. Big one. This is a team sport, and judges are really impressed by teamwork. We've seen some amazing robots in the past that were built by one kid on the team, and the other 9 are just kind of along for the ride. And those teams typically don't judge as well as teams that have many participants that know a lot about things. Okay, and a lot of the awards, especially the Inspire Award, is more than just about the robot. It's about your team. It's about your community. It's about how successful you feel. It's about how gracious and professional you are. It's about how you guys carry yourselves and behave and celebrate yourselves, because that's really what we want to see. Remember that, you know, these judges are usually adults that have come in on the weekend to do this. They're not there to. They're actually on your side. They really want to give you an award. And I think that's pretty universal amongst all of them. They're not there to tear you down or nitpick you or well, be judgmental, which is sort of ironic, but they really aren't. They're really there, you know, they want to hear what you've done. They want to see how excited you are. They want to feel like this program has really helped you out, and that this is a good thing that you've done. And so you need to be able to impress them with that. Okay? All right. Any questions about that? Okay. Oh, I guess I already showed that slide. Let's talk about each of the awards real quick, and then we'll open it up for questions. The Think Award. The program goal for Think Award could probably be best summarized as we want you to be able to communicate what it is that you've done as a team. This is also called the Engineering Notebook Award in some places. Please read Section 5 of the manual. It's amazing how many people don't. And if you can just take a look at that, see what it is that we're after. It isn't that complex. Okay. It is a primary source for the judges to find things out about your team when there's any kind of question in the judging room. Somebody will say, well, what does their notebook have to say about it? Okay. In order for us to be able to do that efficiently, you should mark 6 to 10 pages. Don't mark 20. 6 to 10. Find the 6 to 10 pages that make you the most proud. Okay. Be sure and include things that you think that you're a potential award candidate for. If you've done a lot of community outreach, make sure that those are tagged. If you've done a lot of design work and a lot of the math, tag those. Okay. The judges are not going to be able to read your notebook from cover to cover. They will, however, be instructed to be sure to look at the marked pages and then, you know, kind of skim through the thing to make sure that it looks right, and find a few pages, just a few random pages, and just have a read through them. Okay. So it's up to you to tell us where to look to find your strengths. Okay. Does that make sense? Cool. Motivate Award. You guys should be really proud of what you've done. Teams in Washington are probably sick of me hearing me say this, but the reality is 99.98% of the rest of the population of this planet have never sat down, designed and built something that moves on its own to do something, right? You've done something that puts you in a very elite class of people worldwide, and you should be very proud of that. And it's completely, we want to celebrate your inner nerd. I mean, is kind of the bottom line of it. We like to see teams that are feeling really good about what they've done, and that's what the Motivate Award is about. We love to see spirit, but the reality is that this isn't supposed to be a cheerleading award. You know, spirit's good, and if you guys are loud and having a good time and feeling good about as a team, you know, the Motivate Award we're watching to see is the team having a great time, right? And is the team, you know, confident and feeling good about themselves. That's what the goal of this thing is. Okay. So the Motivate Award is, you know, it's a great award, and it is something that you guys can be really proud of. All right, let's press on here. Connect Award. We want you to be a good partner in your community. That's the basic program goal. And so there are two ways of doing that. We want you to be able to go out and show others what you're doing. Go out and find other students, find elementary schools, go do presentations in Rotary, those sorts of things. You know, we want you to be doing community outreach and learning how to communicate your ideas to other people and communicate your enthusiasm to other people. At the same time, we're also really encourage you to go out and find resources for yourself. So, you know, and these are actually very, very related. So not only do you go out and do outreach to get more people involved at the student level, but we also would like you to go out and get engineers involved to be mentors, and community leaders to get involved and see the benefits of FIRST and of how this program changes your lives. Okay, good stuff to put in your notebook. These are the hard things that are. It's hard for us to pull these out of teams, but so make sure and get this sort of stuff documented in your notebook. The PTC Design Award. You know, we want you to be able to think about the design as a whole and put some thought into it. And part of that is aesthetics, and part of it is form and function, right? So there's this thing called industrial design, and that's where kind of form and function hit the road. And if you think about things that are really outstanding industrial designs, like the iPhone, or if you're old and gray like me, Hewlett-Packard used to make these calculators like the 15C. And when you held one of those things, it was substantial, it was solid, right? Microsoft mouse and the Xbox controller, those are all designed by industrial designers to feel good and function well, right? So somebody put thought into it, and somebody put thought into the aesthetics of it. You know, the new cars are a great example. There's a spectrum. On one end, you know, the most efficient way to carry a lot of stuff is to put it in a square box, for the most part. And so if we were going for efficiency, we'd all be driving UPS trucks or mail trucks, right? Those big square boxes, they carry a lot of cargo. If you're going for aerodynamics, we'd all be driving around in something that, well, quite frankly, looks like a suppository or a big vitamin pill, because that's a very aerodynamic thing. The reality is that people don't want to drive either one of those. They want something that looks cool. So, you know, you look at the Camaro, the Mustang, the Challenger, right? These are really cool looking cars that appeal to people's aesthetics and are also very functional. And so that's what this design award is sort of thought to start promoting you to do. How does that apply to you? We want you to be able to think about not only how it looks and how it all fits together, but we also wanted to see you try and use some of the tools that industrial designers use, like CAD programs, such as the PTC Design software. Okay, this stuff needs to be in the documented in your notebook so that we can see it, right? So we love to see CAD drawings. We love to see that there was actually a plan for what you ended up with, and that it looks good. Okay. So Ron has asked a really great question. Let's see if Ron has his microphone. Hi, Ron, you there? Microphone? No microphone? No microphone. Okay. So Ron is asking, if we add outreach items to the notebook, doesn't it become too much like a diary? Yeah, kind of. But don't worry about it. I mean, the original intent of this notebook was to be a sort of a journal of what you did during the season, and that's fine. We want you to be able to communicate what it is that you've done, and I think if you're doing outreach items, I think it's very, very appropriate for that to be in your engineering notebook. Yes. So no, it does not become too much of a diary. Yes, it becomes information that's in there that's very relevant to the awards process.
Kevin?
Yeah.
Can I add 2 cents to that?
Yeah.
You can actually create a separate section within your notebook specifically for outreach. That'll make it easier for both you and the judges to find the outreach events.
Yep.
And it's then you have your engineering section and your outreach and other team section.
Yes.
That
exactly.
makes sense?
Yep. Gary's asking a very critical question that if he would have read section 5, he would know the answer to, but that's okay. His team is publishing their engineering notebook on a blog. Do the judges have the capability to read it online? No. And so you're going to need to print that out and put it in a binder. There are rules about that in section 5. This is really important. It happens at every event. Somebody walks in and says, it's on our thumb drive here. You can look at it on here. And we don't have that. Yes, we understand that that is the way the world is going, but the flip side of that is that we are volunteers working primarily in schools, that schools will not give us internet access, and there's just too many ways for us to fail, so you need to be able to print it out and bring it in. We'd prefer to have it on paper because we're going to take whatever you give us back to the judging room, and we try very hard to get it back to you. Every once in a while we lose one, so please don't give us your iPad. This has been tried before. Somebody gave us an iPad and wanted us to keep it safe. We don't have the ability to do that. Make sense, Gary? So yes, print it out.
And do read that carefully because there are restrictions on the size of the binder.
Yep. As I flip back here to read section 5 of the manual,
Yeah.
please. Okay, the Rockwell Collins Innovate Award is there to, we want to recognize the teams that have come up with a really creative solution to some part of the game. And this could be a mechanism, it could be some way that you used sensors, it could be many things. It's important that if you've come up with something that you think is inventive, you're going to need to point it out to the judges. Remember, the judges are not necessarily professional engineers, and they may or may not understand, you know, what it is that you've got there. So you're going to have to inform them and be able to explain to them how it works as a student, right? Because otherwise, you could, you know, somebody might look at the really cool thing it is, says, "Ooh, that's shiny," but not understand the coolness and the innovativeness of that. So please be sure that if you feel really strongly that you've got a cool solution to a problem, that you're able to communicate that, and it's in your notebook. Because when that person who may or may not have a great deal of technical expertise ends up back in the judging room trying to explain how there's something called a PID algorithm and you know, a reciprocating dingle arm, right? And they don't know what that is. We can go find it in your notebook. Okay. Ah, yes. When you say must submit a notebook, do you mean the journal provided? Yes. The notebook, the engineering notebook is actually what it is officially called. Some of our documentation has got the engineering journal. They're one and the same. I apologize about the name change. We changed that a couple of years ago, and we haven't gotten it completely out of the rules. So Gavin is asking an extremely pertinent question. So actually, Gavin, I'm going to see if you have a microphone. Hey, Gavin, do you got a microphone? Say something. No microphone. Okay. Oh, yes? No? Okay. All right, so Gavin is asking, what if the judges don't understand our program? Maybe it's too cryptic. How can we fix that? Well, how are you going to explain what it is that you've done in a very concise way? And, you know, you don't want it to be cryptic, but you're going to need to explain this to somebody who may or may not be an engineer, and have them walk away going, that was really cool. Somebody who knows more than I do about it should look at this. right? So something concise. Tell them how you came up with the solution. So, for example, if you are using a PID algorithm to hold your arm in place, you know, explain to them just very briefly. Don't go into a 10-minute lesson on how to build a robot. That's too much. But just say, you know, we're really proud of the way that this PID algorithm will hold our arm level. It's controlled by software, and its aim is to hold the arm in a fixed position no matter how much weight is on it, and if it gets moved, it will automatically move back into position. And we think this is something that's really amazing and something that's unique because a lot of other teams don't do that, and so we're really proud of that. That's a great way to sort of get the ice broken. If the person's technical, they're going to start asking you about your tuning parameters for your PID algorithm. If not, the judge is likely to say, that's called a what? A PID? Oh, that's really cool. And they're likely to write that down and go back to the judging room and ask somebody who knows something to come have a look. Did that make sense to you, Gavin? Meanwhile, Carla has asked, actually, I've already answered that one, right, Carla? Did I think I answered your question. The engineering notebook and the journal are the same. Okay.
Can I add a little bit as well to the question
Sure.
about judging? Too complicated. Have your team pretend they're talking to their grandmother.
Yep.
If they can explain it to grandma, who really is not necessarily technically savvy, then they can explain it to anybody, and that's the real key.
That's a very, very good analogy, Heidi. Thank you for that one. I'll remember that.
You're welcome.
Yep. So invite grandma in and let her be a judge, and if you can explain it to her and she can tell you what you just said, you've done a good job. Okay, cool. All right, and again, you'll find, let me go back and reiterate, hey, look at this, must be documented in your notebook. You'll find this in the guidelines in section 6, okay? Hey, look, this one must be the submitted notebook. And I think that's pretty important. I should actually change this slide to also say must be documented in your notebook, okay? The notebook's really important because remember, that is a huge source of information for the judges. All right. The big one, the Inspire Award. The Inspire Award is given to the teams who the judges feel best represent a model team that is doing well in all the program goals. Oftentimes, the team who wins the Inspire Award is nominated in many categories. And you know, we're looking for your ability to be a team and be gracious and professional, and you know, we feel like you guys have really put in effort and done a good job being an FTC team. It's very difficult to go chasing the Inspire Award in particular. That means that you're going to have to do a pretty decent job in all of them. Now, since you guys have taken the time to come to this webinar or are listening to this webinar, I'll give you a few more inside little tidbits that the other teams may or may not know. Okay, it is often the case that the Inspire Award winner has probably is on the list of potential finalists for at least 2 or 3 categories. Okay, it's rare for somebody to hit every category. But it is pretty common for them to be up for at least 2 or 3 awards. Okay, your robot's performance on the field and your team's behavior and performance on the field do matter for the Inspire Award. It's the only one of the awards that your actual performance is sort of part of this. There isn't a set line that we draw that say your team has to be at least here, but you know, part of doing well as an FTC program, FTC team, is being able to use all of these tools to design and build a machine that can play this game well. Okay, and so you know, you may have done a great job on a lot of things, but if you're in dead ass last place, you know, maybe you didn't do as well as you thought. So we expect that we kind of expect the Inspire Award winners to be competitors. You may not be in first place, but you need to be competitors. Check out the criteria in the game manual. It'll kind of tell you that, oh, well, gee whiz, I kind of need to do well in all those other categories. And you have to provide a notebook. If you don't provide a notebook, no way you get Inspire. It's one of the checkboxes. Okay? Some good questions have popped up. I have noticed that Inspire Award winners typically are not awarded the other awards, although they may be nominees. Is that a true observation across the board? Yes, that is a true observation. Here's how it works. In general, you are eligible for one judged award at an event. If you're a nominee for the Inspire Award, or if you're the winner of the Inspire Award, you will win the Inspire Award, and we're going to take your name off the list for the other awards. You may still be nominated, and oftentimes you'll see the same team nominated multiple times. Occasionally you'll see them 3 or 4 times up, you know, and then they end up winning the Inspire Award. Not always, but usually. That is something that you'll need to take into account, right? Is that you're not going to win Inspire and another award. Now you could win the Finalist Alliance or you know, Robot Performance is objective. All of the awards that I've told you about are subjective. So, make sense? Let's see, who else do we have? How long should the presentation be? Should we leave ample time for questions? Does the duration vary from tournament to tournament? Okay, so if you're going to do if you would like to prepare, in fact, actually, SL, I am going to unmute you, I think. Do you have a microphone? I hear you. Say something.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Where are you from?
California.
California? Okay. So, you're thinking about maybe doing a prepared presentation for the judges?
Yes.
Okay. In general, we try to get most of the judging appointments to be 10 minutes long for you. So I wouldn't try and consume the entire 10 minutes with a presentation. The judges are going to want to ask some questions. I would go with like 3 to 5 minutes at the most. Try and kind of hang out around 3 or 4. And the reality is that once you've planted the seed of the things that you've done with the judges, they will end up asking you questions about what you've told them. Does that make sense?
Yes, but then not everyone on the team gets the chance to talk.
That's true.
4 minutes.
That's true. Unlike First Lego League, where we give you like a 5-minute presentation period, there isn't a formal requirement for a presentation in FTC. So I would probably, but having said that, I think it's a good idea if you at least know what it is that you'd like to tell the judges, and especially the things that you feel make your team unique. But try and keep it about 3 or 4 minutes long so that they can ask the questions that they would like to ask. Okay?
Hey, Kevin?
Yeah.
Can I add my 2 cents?
Yes. I just
I
muted us.
have actually coached FTC for 4 years now. And what I've taught my team to do is that they create an outline and a plan for who says what. So every team member is responsible for one part of that presentation. That way they have an area of expertise, and when the judges, they go in and the judges have no questions or don't have anything to start with, the team can start a presentation, the judges can interrupt at any point, and the kids can point them to the right person based on the question. So it kind of covers both. And it has been successful, highly successful in every tournament we've been at.
Yes. And so SL, did that sort of help answer your question?
Yes. So, yeah.
Okay, good. So we have another question. Terrence Chu is asking, when is the formal interview? I'm gonna unmute this. Terrence, are you there? Do you have the microphone? You do have a microphone. Say something. There you are. We can hear you. Terrence? No? I can hear. Yeah, actually you do. Hey, Terrence?
Yes.
We can actually hear you. You may not have known that you had a microphone, but you actually do. Where are you from?
Okay. Dayton, Ohio.
Okay, cool. So you're asking when is the formal interview?
Yeah, typically, yeah.
Okay, so it depends on each venue. I know that you guys have a, I think, have a Friday night check. Oh yeah, actually, now I'm reading. Usually you know what, you'll have to ask your affiliate partner. It varies from venue to venue. It sort of depends on the logistics of when they can get the space. Do you know who your affiliate partner is?
Linda.
Yep.
Linda.
Linda somebody. Yeah. Contact Linda and ask. This is a good question. We usually try and do all of the judging either the night before, usually if it's an inspection night, or it's going to be like first thing in the morning. We try and get all the judging out of the way, then run the contest. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yep. Thank you.
Okay, cool. Hey, and what do you know? Now you know you have a microphone. All right. Let's see. Oh, SL has asked another question. She's asking, is a poster important in the pit area? And it's not critical, but I think it's actually, for me, as a judge, I think it's a good idea for you to be able to, put up some pictures so that it gives us something to look at. And you can put up pictures of things that you feel proud about and redirect the conversation a little bit. So that, and this is all part of playing the game. The FTC game is being able to get your story across to the judges. And the judges actually do appreciate that sort of thing because it shows that you guys have put some thought into this rather than just showing up one day with a robot. So I would definitely suggest, if you've got things that you're particularly proud of or things that you've done that you've got photographs of, coming up with a poster of it is a great way for you to direct the judges to think about the things that you're proud of. Sound good?
It's also useful,
yeah?
Kevin. It's also useful for outreach because you can take it to an outreach event with your robot and explain the game, the process, as well as all the things that the teams do beyond the robot, which people are often blown away by.
Exactly. Exactly. All right. Okay, cool. Who else has a question? Since it turns out that my next slide says, do you have any questions about judging or FTC or anything else that you want to know? We have a lot of expertise sitting here, so. Okay, so I guess with that, I'm going to, what aspect is weighted more heavily than others? The one that is weighted the most is gracious professionalism in judging. And we assume that we start out with the assumption that everyone is gracious and professional. And if it gets reinforced and demonstrated, your stock goes up immensely in the judging room. If you get labeled as ungracious and professional, you're pretty much done for the day. So I think of all of the aspects that have to do with the judging, that is number one. The individual awards we try and treat on equal footing because these are the 5 program goals that we have for you. And we love each one of them. Each one of them has a different avenue for your team to shine in, and so we don't really pick, the design award's better than the Think Award, that sort along those lines. We don't really look at that. It just doesn't come up. Did that sort of answer your question? So meanwhile, Ron's asking, should the notebook contain a summary page going into each event? That is an outstanding question. And I'll tell you what, since you are here and have taken the time to do this, I will answer it in two parts. One is that it is not mandatory. It is a good idea, though, and it should be one of those things that you flag. Looking forward, we just got done modifying some of the judging criteria for not this season but next season, and that actually turns out to be one of the things that we're going to add. So I just gave you a sneak peek of what might happen next year, but I think it would be a great idea if you had a summary page that sort of touched on things like your things that you did are things that you did in the community, things that you did for the design or the Innovate, those sorts of things that you did were gracious and professional. And then, keep it short because the judges don't have a lot of time, and put references or page numbers or some way for them to go find additional information in your engineering notebook. Did that make sense to you, Ron? Gavin's asking, which engineering notebook is preferred, handwritten notebook or electronic? It varies. I don't know that we necessarily give any preference to one over the other, Gavin. A lot of times honestly, actually, so a lot of times you get a feel that the handwritten notebooks are more genuine, and that's why we originally wanted everything in a bound book, so that we got to see all of the wrinkles along the way. And the electronic ones can be modified and prettied up and gussied up. I think a lot of times the judges do have a minor bias towards the handwritten notebooks, just because there's just a certain feel of authenticity to them, where the ones that were printed out off of a web page, not quite as much. Having said that, it's probably not that big of an edge, but I think it is there. But if you have if your content is king here, and organization is king here, so I think a lot of the judges realize that the electronic ones have probably been post modified, and so it does sort of change how they sort of evaluate them. We don't give the judges any instructions either way on where to go with that. So hopefully that answers the question. In the past, which have won more is a follow-up question. Great question. I'm thinking back from World Championships for the past like 4 years that I've been the judge advisor. Honestly, I think they were all handwritten. And I'm telling you that just as complete anecdotal information that has no basis in statistics, other than I'm pretty sure they were all handwritten, except for code printouts and stuff like that. Or yeah. So you don't have to transcribe your code snippets. It's perfectly valid to print those out and sort of like paste them on or attach them somehow. Some of the notebooks at World Championships are pretty extensive. A couple of them will span actually 2 or 3 notebooks, and they put in pretty much everything that the team did. Yeah. Okay. How do you show it to the judges? They need to be the right place at the right time. SL, I'm going to unmute you again. You've got several questions here, and I have a couple of questions for you. Hi, I'm back. You there?
Yeah. I'm talking about the gracious professionalism, but how do the judges observe it, the team being gracious to other teams unless they're at the right place at the right time?
Oh, well, so gracious professionalism comes in many forms, and being helpful to other teams, mentoring other teams, helping get other teams started is all part of being gracious and professional. So if you have, if you've started several FLL teams, or you've mentored FLL teams, or the same thing with any of the other FIRST programs, that's stuff that you should note in your notebook, and we consider that gracious and professional. Things that you've done to volunteer in the community. Okay, so here's the deal with the volunteering. We love it when people volunteer. We love it when people volunteer to help get more people interested in science and technology. Some teams do a lot of volunteering, like, food drives for flood victims, and those sorts of activities, and those are fine, and we encourage you guys to do those. But really, in the end, we're sort of more interested in gracious professionalism in terms of what you've done to really help the FIRST community grow and enhance the FIRST community. Does that sound about right?
Yes.
Okay, and you've also asked, how do you show it to the? Oh, wait a sec. I have to read. Okay. How do you show it to the judges? Oh, that was gracious professionalism as well, right? Okay, I get it. All right. So Andrew has asked for an engineering notebook. Can you separate it into sections? It's up to you to determine how to organize things. The original intent was that this thing was going to be a chronological thing. However, I don't see. I think the basic structure of each section should be chronological. But I think if you were to separate it into, things that you did for as far as community outreach, and another section that was robot design, and maybe another section that was like teamwork or something like that, I think that would be fine. And I think actually the judges would appreciate that. We are, and again, since you guys took the time to tune in on this, that is actually a change that we're making for next year. Whether I don't know that the judges will give you extra brownie points for it this year, but anything you can do to make this more organized for them to look through is probably in your benefit. Did that help you out, Andrew? Along the same lines, hand-drawn or CAD drawings? Great question. It depends on the purpose. We're perfectly happy to see hand drawings for things, especially early design sketches or strategies or design ideas that you've come up with. And the reality, I am an engineer, and we do hand drawings all the time because CAD's cool, but unless you're getting down to the nitty details of having to actually measure things and see if components fit together, or really coming up with a design package that you're going to show to other people, as a working drawings for a team are most often done on a whiteboard. They're oftentimes done on notepads. So I think that hand drawings or CAD drawings are just fine. Now, if you're at some point, if you transition to CAD drawings, again, you showed up at the thing, so I'll give you some inside scoop. We're most impressed when we see a bunch of hand drawings, and then all of a sudden it turns into CAD, and there's some semblance between the two. I mean, it's not going to be exact, but it's nice to see that progression from doing conceptual things and moving on to the CAD. Because again, one of our goals is for you guys to get some experience using the tools that engineers use. Do you want previous tournament notes and results flagged in the notebook as well? Sure. I wouldn't.
Remember that you only have 6 or 8.
Yeah, you've got 6 to 8, 6 to 10 of these flags, so I wouldn't necessarily just flag your results. You know, it's okay if you want to flag maybe the last one or one that you feel particularly proud of. I think that would be fine. Yeah, I think I would document it, and but I guess I wouldn't exhaust my 6 to 10 flags just on tournament winnings, because it's really more about the other stuff. Your notebook is really there to help us support the rest of the things that you did during the season rather than just winning the game. Having said that, if you wanted to use a page up for that, I think that would be fine. Okay. And other questions? All right. Oh, we got a good one. We're a new team this year. I told my team, the Power Stackers, that we try to do everything and learn everything we can. The more they do, the more they learn, the more they will benefit for the rest of their life. This award, the award is only candy to us. That is my 2 cents to share. Terrence, right on the money.
Exactly.
Yeah, you hit it right on the money. As much as I want all of you to win an award, what I really want you to do is do a really good job at being a first Tech Challenge team, because that's really where the payoff for this whole thing is. And I think that the two actually go in hand. If you are a good first Tech Challenge team and you're able to communicate that to the judges, you're likely going to be a contender for an award. So I encourage you to do your best to do your best to get the judges the information they need to assign you an award. But I think you're right on the money that doing the best you can is the way to actually win rather than trying to win. Okay. For the Inspire Award, could you speak on the primary factors in deciding this award? Thanks. That's really a good question. So, inside knowledge coming at you once again from me. So, how this works is, the judges are going to, they're going to go do the formal interviews with you, and they're going to start forming impressions about your team. And those impressions are very, very, very subjective. We give them an evaluation sheet just to help them organize their notes, but the reality is that they're going to walk away with an impression of how your team appears to be, and whether you seem to be somebody that all of the judges need to go see for each one of these awards. So they're going to go back to this room. It's called the Judge Deliberation Room, and we're going to write up their, your team number and some notes, and start forming a list of teams that need to be considered for each one of the awards. And then a little bit later, the judges will end up going out and talking to you again. And it may be a different set of judges, and maybe those judges are focused on one award, or maybe it's a group of judges who are trying to figure out how things are going, because they have to combine all. When you have multiple judging teams, they all have to combine their results together, and then they come back out and interview you. So, the reality is that those first impressions are very important, and that's what gets you up on this board. And during the day, that the contents of that board change. People come in and they say, well, maybe that team wasn't quite as strong as we thought. They got some new information and they're kind of starting to like another team better. But, it may be that your team has gotten taken off of the design award, but maybe they decided that you had something very innovative, so they may put you back up on the Innovate award, right? So the whole thing is kind of in flux all day long. And the judges will go out and they'll come back and they'll deliberate a little bit more and talk about which teams are really looking like contenders for each one of these awards. And it takes many iterations, and it's discussions among a group of judges. And I'll be honest with you. Let me do this by analogy. You ever gone and seen a movie? You watch the movie for 90 minutes, 2 hours, and when you're done, you're going, boy, I really liked that character. Whoever, whatever character was up there on the screen, and you've probably spent about 2 hours, and maybe about an hour or so of it was with this character. Well, and you've formed this emotional bond with that character. That's kind of how it is with judges and you guys. We're only going to see you for a day, maybe a day and a half. But the reality is that over that day and a half, we're watching your team, and we're sort of talking to you, and we're actually going to start to form sort of a bond with your team. And a lot of that has to do with the interactions that we have with you, and a lot of it has to do with the things that you were able to tell us that make us impress us. And we actually really do like you. And I know that we don't know you very well, but the reality is that just like watching a movie for 90 minutes and forming an emotional bond with somebody, that's kind of the process that the judges go through over that whole long day. They've been with you for 6 or 8 hours, on and off, and they're watching and they're discussing, you start discussing aspects of various teams. So I'm coming back to answer your question here, which is the primary factors in deciding who wins that award really come down to the teams that are doing really well at a lot of awards, and that emotional bond that gets developed, and us feeling like there's a genuine experience happening with your team. Okay, and it's that genuineness and that that getting to know you, at least for the brief amount of time that we do. That's kind of how this happens. That was a very long-winded answer to the question of what are the primary factors in deciding the Inspire Award. I think the key to it is that we've gotten to know you. We've gotten to know you because you're able to tell us your story, and we like your story. Does that make sense, Ethan? I'm sorry that was such a long-winded answer. Okay, but the reality is that really is how it works. When you go to judge one of these things, I want to like your team. By default, we like all of you already. The reality is, by the end of the day, I want to love your team. And it actually does happen that fast. And you get back in the judging rooms, and people fall in love with teams. I mean, in a very real way. I mean, and so that's where the arguments between the judges happen. Is my team's better than your team. Okay. All right. Let me move on. Gavin, this presentation will be up online, and we'll have a link sent out, I guess, or Heidi, do we know where it's going to be?
Well, I only know what we talked about earlier, which is that we would be putting it up on Box.com, and we would be trying to put it up on YouTube as well.
Okay.
And beyond that, I can't say for sure.
Let me take.
I'm hoping that somebody will be giving us that information. I know that the last time we did this call, it was posted on the U.S. First website on the Senior Mentor page, which you have to kind of dig through the volunteers and all this other stuff to get to.
Can you see this page?
Yes.
Okay, so Gavin, this is First Washington. This is our organization, and it's www.firstwa.org. And if you go to the FTC and you go to FTC downloads, this presentation is right here. You can download it. To download it,
put a link in it?
To download it, it's actually over here. Click here to download. Okay.
Kevin, you want to put a link in the
right in the box. I can do that. I'll put it in the chat box.
Kevin, I plan to put it both into Box.com as well as on the U.S. First website.
Oh, excellent. So it's in many places. Okay, let's get to some more. We got a few more questions here. Let's see if we can get through them. Do decisions change based on performance final? Do decisions change based on the final performance of the Do decisions change based on the performance final outcome if the same team is winning both? Oh, for Inspire and Performance. No, you can. The two awards that you can win is Inspire and, say, for example, the Winning Alliance. So if you're doing really well, you can you can be the Winning Alliance and still win a judged award. Does that kind of answer your question? Okay.
Kevin?
Yes?
Did you answer Ron's question about who moves forward from a championship event?
Oh, thank you so much. Typically, who moves forward from a championship event to a world festival? It's always the Inspire Award, and normally it will be the captain of the Winning Alliance. If, however, those are the same team, I'm going to refer you to the currently written documentation, and unless Heidi knows.
As far as I know, it's all documented in the rules of the game. So you just need to read the rules carefully.
So Ron, I'm not ducking your question. We've been talking about changes to it, and I'll be honest with you, I believe I know what it is, but I've also got 4 or 5 different versions of it in my head, and I don't want to misinform you or put this down on record as a misinformed. So I'm going to refer you to the rules.
I can give you a quick, brief summary of what I believe it is as well.
Okay.
I mean, I've read the rules multiple times, but
yeah, it's complicated.
Yes, the Inspire Award winner and the captain of the Winning Alliance are the first two. If somehow they've qualified at another event, then there's a whole complicated thing. I mean, it goes down from there. The runner-up for the Winning Alliance and the alliance partner for, no, let me try that again. The runner-up for Inspire and the partner in the Winning Alliance.
Sufficient.
And then, like I said, it goes on.
Yeah,
but it's all in the documentation.
It's a long, complicated list that we won't go into. How's that sound? Okay, let's. Andrew is asking if your robot completely fails, that cost you the competition, but the team learns from the mistake and continue with gracious professionalism. And the robot did have some great innovative ideas. Can they still win an award like Rockwell Collins Innovate and move on to the next level? Yes. So a failure in one event is not necessarily an issue. The criteria, check the guidelines. It's section 6 of the manual. The criteria for say the Innovate Award do currently state that that it functions well. Now that doesn't mean that, you know, so if it worked every time but one, we're unlikely to ding you on it. If it never worked, then that's a little bit different. So we are aware that things happen and things fail, and you know, these are robots built by students, and so we're good with that. Okay. Where else are we? For Box.com, do we need to sign up and subscribe in order to watch the video? Here's what I'm going to do for you guys. It will be up on Box.com, and Mary Lee, our partner services manager tonight, will put it up there. At some point this evening, I will also upload it to YouTube. It takes YouTube usually about an hour and a half to grind this, because this is a pretty long presentation, and it's pretty big. However, once that's done, what I'm going to do is, if you come back to this page, I am going to put a link to this presentation on firstwa.org/FTC, and that will be the YouTube link. And I'm also going to send it to Mary. I'll send the link to Mary, because oftentimes just watching on YouTube is a little bit easier than box.com. Does that make sense?
Okay, and then on usfirst.org, specifically, it will be under FTC, then Team Resources, FTC Toolkit, and then there will be a click-on for additional resources. You'll click
So
on Senior Mentor Calls.
On tool, okay, so in other words, it's buried as deep as you possibly can on the FIRST website. So you go, yeah.
And then go
Toolbox.
to the additional resources.
Okay. Senior
And
Mentor
then
Calls.
Senior Mentor Calls, and tomorrow it will be posted there.
Okay.
You scroll down to December.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, hey, here we are, right here. Yeah.
Oh, look.
I'm sure it's possible to bury it deeper, but that's pretty close. Okay. Well, we're going to work on that for next year.
Yes.
All right. Are there any other questions along this line? Otherwise, I think we may be done. I didn't want to keep you for a whole hour and a half. Well, thank you all for doing this, and thank you to Heidi and Mary for being here. And I'm hoping that you guys have an outstanding season, and look forward to seeing you in St. Louis at the end of April. You're going to have a great time. So, good night, everybody.